Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, making your usual breakfast, and reaching into your refrigerator for a package of bacon. It looks perfectly normal. The packaging is sealed, there's no unusual smell, no obvious warning signs, and nothing about it suggests anything is wrong. But what if that same package has just been placed under one of the most serious food recalls issued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture? That's exactly what's happened with more than 12,000 pounds of smoked bacon now being recalled after officials determined it entered the U.S. food supply without the required inspection. While no illnesses have been reported, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service, or FSIS, has classified this as a Class I recall its most serious category because there is a reasonable probability that consuming the product could result in serious adverse health consequences. If you recently purchased bacon from grocery outlet stores in parts of the Pacific Northwest, this is one announcement you won't want to ignore. Today we'll explain exactly what happened, which products are involved, why this recall received such a serious classification, how to identify the affected packages, and what steps you should take if one of them is sitting in your refrigerator or freezer. Food recalls happen more often than many people realize. Every year, federal agencies announce recalls involving everything from fresh produce and frozen meals to dairy products, snacks, and packaged meats. Most consumers only hear about the biggest recalls, while many smaller notices receive little public attention. That's why it's important to understand that not every recall is the same. Some involve labeling mistakes, others involve potential contamination, and some are issued because a product did not meet required safety regulations before reaching store shelves. This latest recall falls into that last category. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service, Maple Leaf Foods, a Canadian food company, is recalling more than 12.00 pounds of smoked bacon that was distributed in the United States. The products were imported from Canada but were not presented for the required U.S. reinspection before entering commerce, which means they bypassed an important regulatory step intended to verify imported meat products before they are sold to consumers. Because of that, federal officials determined the products should not remain in the marketplace and announced a nationwide recall of the affected items. Although there have been no confirmed reports of illness associated with these products, the USDA is advising consumers not to eat the recalled bacon if they have it at home. Instead, consumers should either throw the product away or return it to the place of purchase for a refund. If that sounds surprising, you're not alone. Many people assume recalls only happen after dozens or even hundreds of people become sick. In reality, recalls are often issued before illnesses are reported. Federal agencies monitor inspection records, production documentation, import procedures, and regulatory compliance. When a significant problem is discovered, products can be removed from store shelves as a precaution to reduce potential risk. That proactive approach is designed to prevent illnesses rather than simply respond after they occur. So, what exactly caused this recall? And why did the USDA classify it under its highest recall category? To answer those questions, we first need to understand how imported meat products are supposed to enter the United States. At first glance, the recalled bacon may appear no different from any other package in your refrigerator, but behind every package of imported meat is a series of inspection and verification steps designed to help protect consumers. In this case, one of those steps didn't happen as required. The recalled bacon was produced by Maple Leaf Foods in Canada, one of North America's largest food manufacturers. Canadian meat products are regularly imported into the United States, and many meet all required safety standards before reaching grocery stores. However, imported meat products must still comply with U.S. import regulations before they can legally enter commerce. One of those requirements is reinspection by U.S. authorities. This doesn't necessarily mean every package is opened and examined individually. Instead, inspectors verify documentation, confirm that shipments meet regulatory requirements, and ensure imported products comply with U.S. food safety standards before they move through the distribution system. According to the USDA, the recalled bacon was not presented for this required reinspection. That missing step is what triggered the recall. It's important to understand what the recall announcement does and does not say. The USDA has not stated that the bacon tested positive for bacteria, viruses, or chemical contamination. The recall notice also does not say consumers have become ill after eating the product. Instead, the issue is that the required import inspection process was not completed before the bacon entered the marketplace. Because federal food safety regulations exist to help verify imported products before they are sold, officials determined the affected bacon should be removed from commerce. This highlights an important aspect of the U.S. food safety system. Food recalls are not always based on confirmed illnesses. Sometimes they're issued because products fail to meet legal or regulatory requirements intended to protect consumers. In those situations, agencies often act out of caution, removing products while minimizing potential exposure. For consumers, the practical takeaway is simple. If a product is included in an official recall, the safest course of action is to follow the agency's guidance rather than assume everything is fine because the food looks or smells normal. Many food safety hazards can't be detected by appearance alone, which is why recall notices are an important part of the public health system. Now that we know why the recall happened, the next question becomes even more important. How can you tell whether the bacon in your refrigerator is actually part of this recall? In the next section, we'll walk through the exact brand names, package details, sell-by dates, and identifying information you should look for, along with an explanation of what a Class I recall really means and why the USDA reserves that designation for its most serious food safety actions. Now that we understand why this recall was issued, the next question is the one that matters most to consumers. How do you know if the bacon in your refrigerator or freezer is actually part of the recall? The good news is that the USDA has provided very specific information to help shoppers identify the affected products. Instead of recalling every bacon product made by Maple Leaf Foods, the recall is limited to certain packages sold under 2 specific brand names and distributed through a limited number of retail locations. That means checking the label carefully is the fastest way to determine whether your purchase is involved. The first product included in the recall was sold under the Royale brand. It comes in a 12-ounce vacuum-sealed package labeled Royale Natural Applewood Smoked, all-natural uncured bacon product of Canada. Consumers are advised to look for sell-by dates of September 1st, 2026, or September 7th, 2026 if you purchased this exact product with one of those dates. Federal officials say it should not be consumed. The second recalled product was sold under the Top Value brand. Like the Royale product, it is packaged in a 12-ounce vacuum-sealed package and labeled Top Value Uncured Hardwood Smoked Bacon Product of Canada. This product includes several different sell-by dates, including September 1, September 2, September 4, September 5, and September 7th, 2026, because multiple production dates are involved. Consumers should take a moment to compare the information on the package instead of assuming their bacon is unaffected simply because it looks similar to other products on the shelf. Another important identifying detail is the Canadian Establishment Number printed on the side of the package, according to the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service. All recalled packages bear the Canadian Establishment Number EST. 1. In addition, the master shipping cases carried the Health Certificate Number 2026 S732971612. While most consumers won't have access to the shipping cartons used during distribution, the establishment number on the retail package can serve as another useful way to confirm whether a product matches the recall notice. One of the biggest challenges with food recalls is that many people don't immediately check the products they've already purchased. A package of bacon might be sitting unopened in the refrigerator, waiting for the weekend, or stored in the freezer for several weeks or even months. Unlike fresh produce that is often consumed within a few days, bacon is commonly frozen to extend its shelf life. Families frequently buy multiple packages during grocery trips, especially when products are on sale, and it's surprisingly easy to forget exactly when or where a particular package was purchased. That's why food safety experts encourage consumers to check both the refrigerator and the freezer whenever a recall involves products they may have stocked up on. Another reason recalls can be overlooked is that recalled food often appears completely normal. There may be no unusual smell, no discoloration, no damaged packaging, and no visible indication that anything is wrong. Consumers naturally rely on their senses when evaluating food quality, but recalls remind us that appearance alone isn't always enough. Some recalls involve undeclared allergens, others involve manufacturing errors, and some, like this one, involve regulatory issues that cannot be detected simply by looking at the product. That's why official recall notices rely on package information rather than visual appearance. The USDA also noted that these recalled bacon products were distributed to grocery outlet retail locations in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. If you live in one of these states and recently purchased bacon from a grocery outlet store, it's worth taking a few minutes to verify the package information. Even if you no longer have the original grocery receipt, the labeling on the product itself should provide enough information to determine whether it is included in the recall. Of course, some viewers may be wondering whether they should be concerned if they bought bacon in another state. The recall notice specifically identifies distribution to grocery outlet stores in those 3 states. and there is no indication in the USDA announcement that the affected products were widely distributed beyond those locations. However, food products can sometimes travel with consumers. Families relocate, people purchase groceries while traveling, and food is often shared with relatives or friends. For that reason, checking the label is more reliable than relying solely on where you currently live. At this point, another important question naturally comes to mind. If no illnesses have been reported, why did the USDA classify this as a Class I recall? The phrase Class I recall often sounds alarming, but many consumers aren't familiar with what it actually means. Rather than describing the number of people affected, the classification reflects the potential level of risk if the product remains in circulation. The Food Safety and Inspection Service uses 3 recall classifications, with Class I representing the highest level. According to the agency, a Class I recall is issued when there is a reasonable probability that the use of a product will cause serious adverse health consequences or even death. That definition explains why these announcements receive significant public attention. The classification is designed to communicate the importance of acting quickly if consumers have the affected product. It's also important to understand what the classification does not mean. A Class I recall does not automatically mean people have already become sick, nor does it necessarily indicate that widespread injuries have occurred. In many cases, regulators act before illnesses are reported because their goal is prevention rather than response. Removing products from the marketplace early can reduce the chance that anyone is exposed if a potential safety issue exists. In this particular case, the USDA has stated that no confirmed illnesses have been reported in connection with the recalled bacon. That is encouraging news, but it does not change the agency's recommendation. Federal officials continue to advise consumers that these products should not be eaten. Instead, anyone who identifies one of the recalled packages should either dispose of it safely or return it to the place of purchase for a refund. As straightforward as that advice sounds, many people still hesitate. Some may think the package looks fine, while others may assume that thoroughly cooking the bacon would eliminate any concern. However, when federal agencies issue an official recall, the safest course of action is to follow the guidance provided rather than trying to determine whether the product is safe based on appearance or personal judgment. Food recalls exist because officials have identified a problem significant enough to warrant removing the product from commerce, and following those recommendations is the simplest way to reduce unnecessary risk. If you've checked your refrigerator or freezer and discovered that one of your bacon packages matches the recall information, the most important thing to remember is not to panic, but do take the recall seriously. The USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service has made its recommendation clear. The recalled bacon should not be consumed. Even though no illnesses have been reported at the time of the announcement, federal officials have advised consumers to either throw the product away or return it to the original place of purchase for a full refund. Following that guidance is the safest course of action and helps ensure that the recalled product is removed from circulation. Some people naturally hesitate to throw food away, especially with grocery prices remaining high. It's understandable to wonder whether cooking the bacon thoroughly might make it safe or whether freezing it could eliminate any potential concern. However, official recall notices are issued because regulators have determined that the product should no longer remain in the marketplace. Once a food has been officially recalled, consumers should rely on the recommendations provided by food safety authorities rather than trying to determine for themselves whether it can still be safely used. Returning the product for a refund, when possible, is a better option than taking unnecessary chances, if you decide to dispose of the bacon. It's also important to do so in a way that prevents it from accidentally being eaten by someone else. Food safety experts generally recommend placing recalled food in a sealed bag before putting it into the trash so that it cannot easily be retrieved by people or animals. If the product is being returned to the store, keep it sealed in its original packaging whenever possible, as this helps store employees identify the recalled item and process the refund more efficiently. This recall also serves as a reminder of how important it is to pay attention to food safety announcements. In today's world, grocery stores carry thousands of different products sourced from farms, processing facilities, and manufacturers across North America and around the globe. The overwhelming majority of these products reach consumers without incident because they pass through multiple layers of inspection, quality control, and regulatory oversight. But when a problem is discovered, whether it's related to production, labeling, transportation, or regulatory compliance, public recalls become one of the fastest ways to notify consumers before a larger issue develops. Many people assume recalls only happen after dozens of consumers become sick, but that's often not the case. Modern food safety systems are designed to identify potential problems as early as possible. Government inspectors, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers all play a role in monitoring products as they move through the supply chain. Sometimes an issue is discovered during routine inspections. Other times, a company identifies a problem during its own internal quality checks and voluntarily notifies regulators. In still other cases, documentation reviews reveal that required procedures were not properly completed, as occurred with this imported bacon. When that happens, officials may determine that removing the product from store shelves is the most responsible course of action, even before any illnesses have been reported. This proactive approach reflects one of the strengths of the modern food safety system. Instead of waiting for evidence that consumers have been harmed, agencies often act when they identify a situation that could potentially increase risk. While recalls can certainly be inconvenient for shoppers and costly for manufacturers, they are intended to protect public health by reducing the likelihood that unsafe or improperly handled products remain available for purchase. The Maple Leaf Foods recall also highlights another reality of today's food supply. Many of the foods we buy travel long distances before reaching our local grocery stores. Imported products play an important role in providing year-round availability and consumer choice, but they also require coordination between different countries' food safety systems. Products entering the United States must meet specific import requirements established by federal regulators, and those requirements exist to help ensure that imported foods receive appropriate oversight before reaching consumers. When those procedures are not completed as required, agencies may decide that a recall is necessary, even if there is no evidence that the food itself has caused illness. For consumers, one of the most valuable habits is simply staying informed. Many recalls receive only brief coverage in local news reports, and it's easy to miss an announcement if you aren't actively looking for it. Taking a few minutes each week to check official food recall updates or paying attention to announcements from trusted news organizations can help you identify affected products before they are used. Some grocery stores also notify loyalty program members about recalled products that may have been purchased using their rewards accounts, making it easier for customers to determine whether they need to check a specific item at home. Another good habit is keeping food in its original packaging until it has been used. It's common for people to divide bulk purchases into smaller containers or freezer bags to save space, but doing so can sometimes remove important identifying information such as lot numbers, establishment numbers, or sell-by dates. If a recall is announced later, it may become much more difficult to determine whether the product is affected. Keeping the original label, even if it's folded or stored separately in the freezer, can make future identification much easier. Although this particular recall involves only 2 bacon products sold through grocery outlet stores in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, the broader lesson applies to every household. Food recalls are not limited to one brand, one retailer, or one type of product. Over the years, recalls have involved vegetables, fruits, frozen meals, dairy products, spices, snacks, seafood, poultry, and many other everyday grocery items. Most consumers will encounter at least one recalled product at some point, simply because of how large and interconnected today's food supply has become. That's why knowing how to respond calmly and quickly is an important part of being an informed shopper. The encouraging news is that, according to the USDA, no illnesses have been reported in connection with this recall. That means the recall appears to be serving its intended purpose, informing consumers early so they can remove the affected products from their homes before any potential problems occur. By checking package information, following official guidance, and staying informed about future recalls, consumers can play an active role in protecting themselves and their families. By now, we've covered what happened, why the recall was issued, how to identify the affected products, and what steps consumers should take if they discover one of the recalled bacon packages in their homes. While this particular recall involves a limited number of products, it also serves as a valuable reminder of how modern food safety systems are designed to protect consumers before problems become widespread. The recall announced by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety and Inspection Service involves more than 12,000 pounds of smoked bacon produced by Maple Leaf Foods in Canada. The affected products were sold under the Royale and Top Value brand names and distributed to grocery outlet stores in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. According to federal officials, the bacon entered commerce without undergoing the required U.S. reinspection after being imported from Canada. Because that important regulatory step was not completed, the agency determined that the products should be removed from the marketplace. One encouraging aspect of this announcement is that at the time the recall was issued, no illnesses had been reported in connection with the affected bacon. That's an important detail because it demonstrates that recalls are often preventive rather than reactive. Instead of waiting for people to become sick before taking action, regulators work to identify potential problems early and remove products before they can pose a larger public health concern. For many consumers, hearing the words Class I recall can sound frightening. However, it's helpful to remember that this classification reflects the seriousness with which regulators approach potential risks. It is intended to encourage consumers to act promptly by checking their products and following official guidance. It should not automatically be interpreted as evidence that widespread harm has already occurred. In this case, the USDA's recommendation is straightforward. If you have one of the recalled products, do not eat it. Instead, either dispose of it safely or return it to the retailer for a refund. This recall also highlights an important reality about today's food supply. Every day, millions of food products move through farms, processing facilities, warehouses, distribution centers, trucks, ships, and grocery stores before reaching consumers. Behind the scenes, there is an extensive network of inspections, documentation, quality control procedures, and regulatory oversight designed to help ensure that food meets established safety standards. While no system can eliminate every risk, these safeguards exist to identify problems as early as possible and reduce the likelihood that unsafe or improperly handled products remain available to the public. At the same time, consumers also play an important role in food safety. Something as simple as taking a few moments to read a recall notice or compare a package label can make a meaningful difference. Many people routinely check expiration dates before buying food, but fewer people think to monitor official recall announcements after those products are already in their homes. Developing that habit doesn't require much time. Yet it can help prevent unnecessary exposure to recalled products. Another useful practice is keeping food packaging until the product has been completely used. Labels often contain important identifying information such as sell-by dates, lot codes, and establishment numbers. Without those details, it can be difficult to determine whether a product is included in a future recall. If you regularly freeze food, consider keeping the original packaging attached or stored alongside the product so the identifying information remains available if it's ever needed. It's also worth remembering that not every recall indicates contamination or widespread illness. Food recalls can occur for many different reasons, including undeclared allergens, labeling errors, foreign materials, packaging defects, temperature control issues, manufacturing problems, or regulatory concerns like the one involved in this case. Although the reasons may differ, the goal remains the same: protecting consumers by removing affected products from circulation as quickly as possible. For shoppers who purchased bacon from grocery outlet stores in Idaho, Oregon, or Washington, now is a good time to check the refrigerator and freezer. Compare the package carefully with the information provided by the USDA. If it matches the recall notice, follow the agency's recommendations rather than relying on appearance, smell, or personal judgment. Official recalls are issued because regulators have determined that taking action is the safest option. As consumers, it's easy to overlook food safety announcements amid the constant flow of daily news, but recall notices provide important information that can help families make informed decisions about the food they bring into their homes. Staying informed doesn't require fear or constant worry. Instead, it means paying attention to credible information, verifying the facts, and responding appropriately when an official recall affects products you may have purchased. Ultimately, this story isn't just about one shipment of bacon or one recall announcement. It's about understanding how food safety systems work, why regulatory oversight matters, and how informed consumers can help protect themselves through simple, practical actions. Most grocery trips end without any issues at all, and the overwhelming majority of food sold in stores is safe to eat. However, when recalls do occur, responding promptly and following official guidance remains the best way to reduce unnecessary risk. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, consider sharing it with friends or family members, especially anyone who recently shops at grocery outlet in the affected states. A quick conversation or shared video could help someone identify a recalled product before it's used. And if you'd like to stay informed about important food recalls, consumer safety updates, and other developments that may affect your household, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover official announcements, explain what they mean in plain language, and focus on providing accurate, fact-based information that helps you make informed decisions. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.